not real productive.
Well, tell me about Bold. How is that?
uh, it it's been a very informative course. I've been getting information from all different directions because I'm going through Ignite and Bold and this. Um,
Right.
but I mean, it's very informative. I'm working with Wayne Salomons, so he's very energetic. um, and it's good to learn from someone who's been successful at it. So
Right, right, absolutely. Bold is such a great class. You'll get a lot of it, a lot out of it. And that was what, the second step?
third step.
Third step. Okay. All right, great. Well, I'd love to hear some insights and stuff at the end of Bold and see what you took away from it. How about Chuck? Chuck, how's your week been?
Oh, just busy. I think Monday I had the fact I've been going nonstop for a couple weeks catch up with me,
Oh
and then
yeah.
uh, and then I kind of took a little slow Monday, but I'm trying to figure out what we were talking about earlier, the leases. I'm trying to finish a bunch of that stuff up, and it just seems like you're not accomplishing. You're busy all day, and then you don't feel like you're accomplishing a lot, but it's just trying to get all the stuff done.
Well, I mean, at the same time, you have been pretty busy. Chuck told me earlier that you've done three leases now and potentially two more, right?
Yeah.
So, so that's great. I mean, since the last time we spoke, which was last week or the week
Well,
before.
they're all people I've been working with for a little while, but
Yeah,
they're all finishing up now.
that's awesome. Okay, great. Stephanie, how about you? Do you have anybody you're working with right now?
I have a couple of people who are looking to lease in the area and have actually moved in from Ohio. And then I have just some leads I've been following up on. Really nothing substantial yet.
Okay, all right. Have either one of y'all taken any of those ideas from the lead gen class we did and implemented anything, or at least been kind of tossing around the idea of anything specific?
I am going to. My big thing was is that we had those classes and I left for a week to
Right.
go back home. So I honestly haven't been here to do that.
Yeah. How about you, Chuck?
And kind of the same thing, but I was here, but I went right into the classes for 2 days, and then I spent all weekend showing houses and doing open houses, and it's just I had it with me, and I was going to look at the stuff and start going through and finding stuff to do and start a game plan, but
Okay.
that
Well,
hasn't happened yet, and
I'll
that's
tell
my
you what.
fault.
If y'all will take a look at that over this, the rest of this week, and maybe just shoot me an email of your four different items, four different things that you think you're going to target to start off with. Whenever I was at family reunion, there was this really good class, and it was I can't remember what it was titled right now, but it's younger. They weren't a couple; they were out of they formed a team basically, but it was this younger group that had done so many transactions. It was like 500 transactions or something within 3 years. It was a phenomenal amount. And one of the things they said is you have to have four legs of a chair. And they said usually what you'll find is you'll find about four items that that's basically where you get all your business from. So if y'all pick maybe four items you kind of want to start focusing on and see how those work out for you. Now, of course, like I said, it's not everything's going to work for everybody. So pick what you think will work for you, and you got to stick with it long enough to see if it actually is working. And if it's not working, after after a month, 2 months, then you may want to change it to something else. Yeah, you got to stick with it longer than 2 weeks. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's I was talking with Liz Rourke the other day when I was in her office, and I was going through some of the stuff, where and I was saying can't, and she's like, "Well, all I hear is can't," and I'm like, "Well, wasn't saying I couldn't do anything, but I was more referring to, I don't have that like the big circle of friends and stuff." And she started in on the can't. It just, I don't know. I think maybe I'm over analyzing things a little bit, but it's like where I'm going to move to, there's not a lot of houses right around it and stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out what would be the best bang for the buck, and all that kind of stuff. And
Well, like one of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago is the FISBOs and expireds are going to be a great source of opportunity. Now, I don't know that y'all have a lot of those up there, right? That's what y'all were saying. Right now, you
well,
don't.
Yeah, we do not.
You don't.
they're there, but they're getting like 50 calls in 2 days and that kind of stuff. So
So did I show y'all that video on KW Connect about a lady who basically changed the way she was calling expired FISBOs and said, get to know as quickly as possible and ask them, well, did you have a full walking tour of your home, like a video walking tour, and then did you have an appraisal on your home before listing it? Did you have a blog for your home? Did I show y'all that video?
I think you gave us the link, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. Well, maybe look at that video because it was really insightful to me because it's a different way of reaching out to them. It's a different way that most people aren't asking them those questions. So if you can capture their attention when you do call, then it will. You're more likely to at least get them to listen to you and maybe potentially set the appointment.
Well, and yesterday, step 3 of Bold is actually going over for sale by owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked a lot of the things that were said in there yesterday because they didn't talk about calling and saying, "Hey, I want to list your house."
Yeah.
That wasn't the conversation you're having with them. You're more calling them and saying, what if I find a buyer for your home? Are you willing to pay a commission, if I find a buyer for your home?
Right.
And I think that's a much easier conversation to have than to try to push them into listing with a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come from that perspective, they may even list with you anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an agent up here who brand new, and she just started calling FISBOs and just saying, I work with buyers, and I just need to know about all the homes that are on the market, whether they're on the MLS or not. I'd love to come preview your home. And so she would set the appointment, and then when she gets in the home, she just asks more questions. And she actually got one of them to agree to list with her. So
yeah, there's a specific script, and I actually have it here in front of me. It's the shorter one of the 3 scripts, and it's my favorite. If you don't mind me just reading it real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, "Hello, and thank you for taking my call. This is Stephanie with Keller Williams Realty, and I'm calling so I know about all the houses on the market, not just the ones in the multiple listing services." And then you ask them, questions. May I ask where you are moving to? How soon do you need to be there? What price are you asking for your property? You're more gathering information. You're not trying to push them into listing with you.
Right. Absolutely. And people are more open to talk to you whenever you're coming from curiosity versus just, hey, I want to list your home.
Right. No one wants to be sold, and when we're calling and trying to gain their listing, that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to sell them our services.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I really like that script too, Stephanie. That's probably the one I would use, and that's what this one of our agents was using. She was being pretty successful with it. So yeah, if y'all go over that list and maybe pick 3 to 4 items that you want to kind of focus on, and then if you'll email them to me, and of course we can even have a phone call and just kind of run through some ideas that you have, and just help you guys get kind of kicked off. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started on the buyer and the seller timelines and just the flow of the deal. So I'm going to start with buyers. People tend to work with buyers first, and if you guys have any questions throughout this, just let me know. I need to let's see. I think I may have lost one of the sheets I need real quick. Let me see if I can find it. This is it right here. So what I want to do with the buyers first is I'm going to kind of take you through this flow chart, and y'all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take you through this flow chart, and this is more of like capturing the buyer. And then I want to take you through kind of the flow of the contract. And y'all, neither one of you have written a buyer's contract yet, right?
No.
Okay. All right. So this will be perfect because get you off to a good start before you actually write one. So whenever you have a buyer lead come in, it could come from like a referral or a sign call. It also could come from online, could come from your sphere, people that you know. And then so this is just going to kind of show you the steps of what to do with them once you actually have that lead. And this can be found on our website under resources and under buyer. So if you get the buyer lead, what you're going to do, of course, is you're going to pre-qualify and set that appointment. And then if they don't want the appointment, you're going to add them to your database and put them on a campaign. Regardless, if they do set the appointment, you're going to put them in your database and add them to the campaign. So that's always, whether it's a buyer or a seller, you're going to do that step. Once you have them pre-qualified, meaning that they're a motivated buyer, you're going to set that appointment. And the big thing I've been just hearing over and over, because I've been watching videos and searching for, how do we get buyers to take out that fear and write contracts and just be willing to go look at homes and write contracts on them, not just look at homes. And the podcasts and the videos that I've been watching, it all starts with that buyer's consultation. And we're going to do a class on the buyer's consultation a little bit further next month, I believe. It's on y'all's schedule. But so you really have to start with that. So then after you pre-qualify and at that buyer's consultation, you're going to discover if they're an A, B, or C buyer. Do y'all know what that means yet? Have you heard that term?
I do not.
Chuck, have you heard that yet?
Well, not really, but I'm guessing it's how far out they are because I see the days things on the boxes.
Yeah, so and this is actually really great to ask them, so that way they can tell you if they're a B or a C buyer. So an A buyer is somebody who is pre-approved, they're ready to go, they're looking to buy in the next 30 days. So those are your highest priority buyers. Essentially, their house is under contract, going to be sold, their lease is up. They're basically going to be homeless if you don't find them a place to live, or maybe they're being relocated from another state or another area. Your B buyer is maybe their house is up, it's listed yet not under contract yet, or maybe they haven't even listed it yet. They still have a lease to fulfill, something along those lines. They're 30 to 90 days out. They're not the highest motivation yet. However, they are moving in the direction of buying. Then your C buyers, the ones that aren't ready, those are the people who are really, they'll move when they find that perfect house. And we know that there's a lot of those people out there. These are really more of your looky-loos, and not really committed yet. So they're low motivation. So with those people, those are people who are buying in the next 90 plus days. What you're going to do with them is you're going to put them in a database and put them in your database and put them on a campaign, and just touch base with them every now and then, maybe once a month, talk to them, see how they're doing. You're also going to have to make sure you let these guys know, especially these B's and C's, I need to know at any point in time if your motivation changes, so that way my motivation can change with yours. Because right now, you're just as high as a priority as the A buyers, but remember, these guys may be homeless if we don't find them a home. So you just, I'm actually going to show you a script. Y'all know Lance Loken from Houston? Y'all heard of him?
No.
He's a really top agent in Keller Williams. Let's see. I'm going to type, are you an A, B, or C buyer in Google? And his script right here comes up, the Loken Group. So basically, you could copy this and put it in your buyer's presentation. Just take out, the Loken Group part here. but it explains what the A, B, and C buyer is. And then it says, as you can see, if you're a B or a C buyer, it doesn't mean you're less important. Your needs are paramount. It only means that your needs aren't as urgent as an A buyer. So remember, you could quickly become an A buyer and become top priority. We always try to do our best to accommodate. Should your motivation change, please let us know so we can adjust our motivation with yours. And then you ask them, so which kind of buyer are you? And then they fill out this form. What they actually have them do is, or at least what Sean Kokoska used to have his buyers do, when they would come into the office before meeting with the agent, the receptionist would hand them this form so that way they could fill it out prior to going into that meeting. And the great thing is they get to tell you what their motivation is. And so then it's kind of setting that expectation that if you're not calling them every single week, they understand why. And they don't think, oh, well, they're not working on my behalf. They realize you're working with these A buyers first. And then, when they move to an A buyer, then they're going to be top priority. How do y'all like that script?
It's good because my buyer I've got is, I guess you would call her an A, but it's not in a hurry. If we
What?
found the right house today, she would buy, but she doesn't have to move. Does that make sense?
Yes. So she's actually a C buyer.
No, that's what you'd classify it.
Yeah. So she, like you just said, if you found her the right house today, she would buy, yet she doesn't have to. So she's actually low motivation. Motivation for a buyer is somebody willing, able, and ready. So ready meaning they have the finances, or I'm sorry, ready means that they don't have anything holding them back from buying, as far as they don't have a lease to fulfill. Their home is already sold or something along those
Well,
lines.
this lady has nothing holding her back. It's just she just doesn't have to move.
Yeah, well, and then that's going to come down to willing to. If she doesn't
Yeah.
have to move, is she really willing to? So she's really looking for that perfect home.
Yeah.
So now, how often are you taking her out?
Well, right now she's back in Florida, but I've got her on a concierge deal on MLS where I'm previewing everything and then approving or rejecting stuff. And
Okay.
when the right one comes through, then she's got a son. She's relocating from Florida to here, and if the one pops up that they want to go see, her son's going to go with me.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's good. So you're not really out there taking her around and showing her all these homes. And that's what we don't really want you doing with a C buyer, because you're going to end up running around. They're not really ready to buy. So for her, putting her on a listing alert, like you're saying, is great. So for those C buyers, you would add them, to your database in a campaign, possibly put them on a listing alert. So when a property comes on the market that matches their criteria, it gets emailed to them. And then that way you're at least still touching base. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, I did that with a buyer whenever I was an agent. And for a good 6 months, I didn't hear from this guy, but I knew he was looking at my website. And then 6 months later, he sent me an email saying, okay, we're ready to buy. And he had told me it was going to be about 6 months. And so that deal closed just because I had him on a listing alert campaign. So it does work. Your B buyers here, they're looking at this 30 to 90 days. Again, put them in your database, put them on a campaign. You're going to be touching base with these guys a little bit more regularly, probably maybe once every other week. And then of course your A buyers, these are the ones you're actually going to be actively out there looking for properties with. So you're going to be talking to them on a regular basis, and they still need to go on your database in a campaign. And then of course you have the buyer's consultation. And then this talks about once you do that buyer's consultation, then you go out and show them properties. They should already have their pre-approval by that point. If not, then they should at least be in conversation with the lender about getting it. And the big thing is you want to make sure that they're pre-approved before you show them homes, because you don't want to get their hopes up on something that they can't afford. And then and whenever you go to submit an offer, especially in y'all's market with things just kind of selling so quickly, they really have to have that pre-approval ready, so that way when they're ready to make an offer, they can. Any questions on this part right here?
No.
I'll just say I really like that where you're just, because you're not wasting your time or theirs, but you're leaving the ball in their court. They're telling you what what they're willing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of the guessing work out and frustration, because frustration on your part and theirs, because now you're on the same page as far as their motivation, and they're not expecting you to be, running around showing them all these properties. They're not expecting you to be calling them every single week if they're, over here in the C buyer. And so they shouldn't be getting frustrated with you, and you shouldn't be getting frustrated with them if they're not ready to write a contract and you're out showing them properties. What do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, I agree. I was just writing down to put that on my website.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's run through kind of the contract piece now. Let's see. I made this a little small, that way I can put this other. I got to make this a little smaller too. Hold on just a second. I'm going to try to put this side by side so y'all can see them together. Okay, how's that? Can y'all see both of those documents?
Yeah.
Okay, so this buyer's closing timeline, I put this together just to kind of make it easier. It's something that you can, print out for every single one of your deals, or have for every single one of your buyers. You can also send it to your buyers. It's really great for them to be able to see, okay, these are the timelines I have to pay attention to. And then, of course, you just have to make sure that you change anything that doesn't pertain to them, and you change dates, change names, and the address. So this is your normal 1-to-4 family contract over here. And so what we'll do is we'll just kind of run through this closing timeline and look at where it would be on this contract. So that way we know, okay, what do I put in there? So if the effective date of the contract is going to be on page 8, it is right here. So whatever that execution date is, that's the date you're going to want to put up in here. And then your estimated closing date is in paragraph 9. So that date will go right here. So the day after this contract is executed is the first day of your option period. So that's always important to let people know, because that's everything starts the day after the effective date of the contract. All the dates start counting. So just going off of these dates, if I said my effective date was November 1st, depending on how many days you have for your option period, typically in our market, it's 10 days or $100 for 10 days. Is that pretty common in Dallas, or is it different up there?
I've been hearing a couple $100, and it's getting down to 5 days.
Oh,
Where
wow.
people are they're trying to shorten the days to try to win the
Yeah.
house.
So that definitely is a negotiable item. Absolutely. So if we wanted to make the deal a little sweeter and I'm representing the buyer, I might do what you're saying, do $200, and 5 days is really pushing it, just because you have to get inspections done within the 5 days. Yet it can be done. You just want to make sure that you have your inspector lined up as soon as that contract gets executed. Maybe that next day they're going out to do the inspection. And so I would be calling inspectors earlier before I get under contract and just say, hey, I'm expecting to get under contract, let's say on Tuesday. Can you inspect on Wednesday? Can we go ahead and get that scheduled? And we can change it if we have to, and just kind of set it up. That way you set yourself up for success. So
And that's what they're doing.
yeah, which I mean, it's not a bad deal, because if you can't always increase the sales price of the home, right? Because it may not appraise, or your buyers may not have the money. Yet you can do some other things with the contract, like increase option fee, increase earnest money. pay the buyer or pay the title policy instead of asking the sellers to pay for it. So there's other ways to make that contract a little bit more enticing than just increasing the price. So however many days is right here, that's how many days you're going to count for the option period. So put the date here. I also put it here. It ends at 5 p.m. So they need to know our option is up at 5 p.m. So that means we have to, if we're asking for any kind of repairs or money towards repairs, we have to have that amendment filled out and signed by the sellers before 5 p.m. on that day. Otherwise, we're stuck in the contract and we can't get out without losing our earnest money. Any questions on that piece? Okay. And then right here, buyer's deadline to obtain new survey if they are getting their own survey. So if I go back to paragraph 6C, that is, it's right here. So that would be if they were buying their own survey, when would that have to be done? So usually we put 20 days here. So that's why from the 1st to 20 days out is the 21st. And then right here, sellers and title policy, when should the title commitment be delivered to the buyers? It's within 20 days, and it says that right here, which within 20 days after the title company receives a copy of the contract, seller shall furnish the buyer commitment. Basically, the title policy will provide that title company will provide the title policy to the buyers. And so that has to be done by the 21st. And then buyer's deadline for obtaining financial approval. I got to open dotloop real quick. Sorry, I forgot to pull that one up. While I'm doing that, do y'all have any questions so far?
No.
You're going to send us that timeline, Christy?
Yeah, and it's actually on our website too, under resources, and if you go to checklist.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our website's down right now, or it was, so you may not be able to get to it just yet. See, third party addendum. Sorry, I thought I had all these contracts pulled up. Let's see. Okay, so the data I'm looking for on this third party is on the second page right here. How many days did you put in there for them to get financial approval? And so however many days are there, you got to count from the first, and that's where you're going to put this date. Now, this date is extremely important because if the lender cannot get the buyer financial approval by this date, they're stuck in the contract and they can't basically say, oh, we can't get financing and back out. Like now they're stuck and they'll lose their earnest money and be in default if they back out. So for you as a buyer's agent, you just have to consistently stay on top of the lender, like weekly, and make sure that they're on time, like ready to get financial approval, that everything's good, that their buyer's turning everything in. And that's another reason to talk to your buyers and just say, it's so important for us to make sure we're with a good lender who has a history of getting closings done on time or even early, and just make sure that you're getting everything back to them that they asked for in a timely manner. Any questions about the third party date? Because that's a really big one. If you are
Sorry.
go ahead.
How long is that usually? Or what's the most likely time?
Yeah, usually 21 to 25 days because we're looking at 30 to 45 day closings now. However, again, in y'all's market with it being more of a seller's market, that is something that could be a negotiable item. Like if you know their lender is really good and the lender says we could get it done in 15 days and have them approved, it is pushing it, yet some lenders are good and can get it done. You could put 15 days in there to make that offer a little bit more enticing. However, just from my experience with lenders, the longer the better. So it's just the underwriting process is what takes so long.
Yeah, we just went through it for our house we're having built, and It took them like twice as long as what they originally said.
Yeah, well, and especially these big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, those banks, they've they'll tell you one thing and then it gets close to closing and then all of a sudden things aren't done like they're supposed to be. So be cautious of working with big banks. However, if that's who your buyer chooses to go with, there's not, you can only educate them. You can't, say you have to use this other lender.
Yeah, and ours was the builder's own mortgage company.
Yeah. So with the builder, they have their own forms. However, if it's a resale, let's say you're coming up on that third party addendum date and they don't have financial approval yet, what you'll have to do is you're going to need to write an amendment and have your buyer sign it to ask the sellers to extend the third party date. That way, it gives them more time to obtain financing approval, and you may have to ask for the closing to be extended potentially, just depending on how close closing is. So never let this date lapse without having financial approval, because then your clients are really stuck in that contract. Any other questions around that? The only reason I hone into on that so much is that has happened, and agents have been sued over it, and it's not good.
Questions?
No? Okay. All right. December 7th, this is a week before closing. Just have the buyers go ahead and get their utilities set up. They don't have to have them turned on yet, just scheduled to be turned on the day of closing. And then this is when the final TIL and preliminary statements are due. 3 days before closing is when that closing disclosure has to be sent out, and the buyers have to sign it. Otherwise, they don't close. Basically, if whatever date this goes out and gets signed, its closing can only take place 3 days after that. And then the day before closing is going to be the final walkthrough. It can either be the day before closing or like the morning of closing. The only thing with doing it the morning before closing is if something's wrong, you don't have much time to get that fixed. However, if you do it the day before, then maybe the sellers could take care of it that evening, or and then be able to close the next day. Make sure that when you're writing your 1 to 4 family contracts, you're putting buyers require final walkthrough within 24 hours in paragraph 11 in special provisions. It's not written anywhere else in the contract to give the buyers that right, and so that will protect them to allow them to be able to do that. Any questions around the walkthrough?
No.
Okay, perfect. And then December 15th which is what we have here, is finally your closing date. So this just gives the information where they'll be closing there. And right down here, it says buyers bring photo ID, cashier's check payable to the title company. Sellers need to bring photo ID keys. They'll also need to bring like garage door openers, remotes, anything that that's going to be left in the house that the buyers need. And then this is just helpful for you, for the your buyers, and then also for if you choose to use a transaction coordination service, this is great for them too, because it has your buyer's information, you're the buying agent, the lender's information, the seller's information. Don't put their contact information, but name is fine, and then the listing agent and their information. Any questions on the kind of the buyer flow through or flow chart and timelines?
No.
Okay, Stephanie, how about you?
Yeah.
No? Okay. All right. Well, so when you work with a buyer, that's really I would say, the most time demanding side. The seller is not as far as things in the contract, it's not quite as time demanding. So what I've done is I've created this seller's flow chart, and we're going to kind of go through each step of this. And it's from all the way from the listing appointment to once the house goes under contract to actually getting it closed. So with a seller, once you get that seller lead, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set the listing appointment 48 hours out. And the reason you want to make sure it's set 48 hours out is because you're going to have time to prepare. You're also going to want to be able to send them the pre-listing packet, and we're going to go over that along with the listing presentation. I want to say it's next week or the week after. So you're going to be able to have time to be able to get that to them as well. Did you have a question around that?
No.
Okay, so you'll set the listing appointment 48 hours out. Then you're going to send the pre-listing packet. And what that is, it's not your listing packet. It's just basically giving information about you, giving them information about Keller Williams, about what kind of marketing you're going to do, as well as pricing, meaning not the pricing of their home, but just pricing is not determined by what they want, what the sellers say it's worth, what they paid for it. It's determined by the market. So just give them statistics and graphs. And so we'll go through that pre-listing packet a little bit later, but you want to either hand deliver this or mail it to them. Hand delivering is probably going to be the quickest, easy way. So either you can take it to their home or take it to their place of work, or have a runner do it for you. And then your next step is pre-qualifying the appointment. So on our website, under resources and listings, is this pre-qualifying the appointment script. And you'll do this probably within 24 hours of your listing appointment. And this is prior to actually preparing for the listing appointment. And so it's a series of questions that you're going to want to ask them. And basically, you just call and say, hi, this is Christy with Keller Williams. I'm calling to confirm our appointment at, 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Does this time still work for you? Before I come out, there's a couple of questions I need to ask you, so I'm fully prepared and to save you time. Do you have about 10 minutes right now? And then so you just run through these questions with them. And there's a couple of them, like the have you ever thought of trying to sell your home yourself? I probably wouldn't ask that, but for the most part, I would ask these other ones. So, what when I see you, how much do you want to list your house for realistically? Because if they say 450, and then when you run comps, you know that it's not going to sell for more than 400. I'm going to need to call them back and say, I know you really wanted to sell your home for 450, yet from what I'm seeing, the market is only saying it's worth 400. So you told me the price you won't go below is 420. Can you afford to sell at 400? And let them answer it. And because you may not want to go on this listing appointment. If they can't sell it at 400, then it's not worth your time, because you could spend that time, going on a different listing appointment that actually will list with you at the price that you say, the market says it's worth. You'll also want to ask how much they owe on the property. That way you can run a seller's net sheet for them and basically say, if we sell at this and this is how much you owe, this is how much you should get back, roughly how much you should get back at closing. Because when it comes down to it, really that's what matters to the seller, is how much they're going to net. Any thoughts around what I just said about all that?
No, I agree, but I'd like to be in the position I'm having trouble scheduling all my listings.
What do you mean?
Oh, I was just making a joke about, wasting your time on one or the other.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, you will be, and that's what some of the top agents I hear talk about, and said, what's nice is when you finally get to that point where now you can really pick and choose your listings and say, that's a listing appointment that I'm, it's not going to be worth me going on, because I can go and, prospect for more listings or go on a different listing appointment. So,
well, and the part of it, I'm learning a little bit about even though I need a business, there's some people you're just not going to be they're not going to be worth your time working with. And I have a rental girl now that just won't do what she needs to do to put in her app, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. So it's like trying to identify some of that stuff so you don't waste your time.
exactly. And you can be a lot more effective with your time if you're able to identify that stuff early. Now, what you would do with somebody like that is, and we're actually going to get over here. So after you pre-qualify, this would go for a buyer, seller, or a lease. But after you pre-qualify, if they're not ready for that appointment, you put them in your database and put them on a campaign and just touch base with them every now and then and make sure, see how they're doing. If they haven't listed with another, I misspelled that, but if they haven't listed with another agent, because those people will eventually be ready. They may just not be ready yet. So have something in place, some kind of system in place. That way you're still touching base with them. They still know you're in real estate, looking out for them. And when they are ready, then you can really start working with them. You don't want to invest a whole lot of time into those people just yet.
No.
I like the idea that it does not. I'm not a fan of wasting my time, so
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
and you to prevent that. I like.
Well, and in the second page of the script is where it gets too good too, because remember I said don't prepare for the appointment just yet, because there's some information you got to find out, like how much will they sell their home for before you prepare. But also here, if you haven't seen the inside of the home yet, you don't necessarily know the condition. So when you start running those CMAs or the comps and trying to compare it to other homes, if you don't know what kind of condition it is, it's really hard to get a good value. So this is where you're going to ask, describe your home a little bit for me. Tell me about honestly, if you were to rate your home on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate it? Okay, is there anything that would make it a 10? Is there anything negative that would affect the price or positive? And then you can ask them about, what have you done in your home? What kind of updates have you done? What kind of flooring do you have? Do you have granite? Have you updated the master bath? Do you have a pool? Things like that you may not be able to find out through the MLS or Realist. Do y'all have Realist up there, the tax records?
I do not to my
Yes.
knowledge. We do.
Yeah, it's on MLS. When you go, it's one of the options on there. You can click on it and it'll give
Okay.
you all the information.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll give you a lot of good information, like how many bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, all that good stuff. It just doesn't give you, any updates or stuff like that. So you'll want to dig deeper and ask them those questions. That way you can have a fairly good idea of what that home looks like.
It's
And
where you verify who owns the house too.
yeah, yeah, good point. Absolutely. And find out, and I think it's even on here where it says, will all decision makers be at the home when I arrive? You want to make sure that all decision makers are there, because you don't want to go through that whole appointment and them say, well, I need to talk to my wife or I need to talk to my husband. Because now,
Or you find out it's a young couple and their parents are signed on too and they're not involved in the discussion at all.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so then you would have to do another presentation. And so it's just important to get all parties on the same page at the same time. So if they both can't be there, reschedule until everybody can be there. Or if you have to, like let's say the husband works out of town and they won't be back for 2 weeks or something, see if you can do like a video call with the husband there, or a conference call. The great thing about technology now is we have so many avenues that we can use to reach people. Okay, so that's if over here, that's if they don't, or if they're not ready for that listing appointment. Now, if they are ready for the listing appointment, then you're gonna, after you pre-qualify, you've done all your research and you've gotten your presentation together, then you're actually gonna go on the listing appointment. You're gonna take that listing, get all agreements signed, and then from there, what you're gonna want to do, and I would bring the sign with me and a super lockbox. If they're planning on putting it on the MLS within the next, I would say next week, put a coming soon sign in the yard. If it's within a week of taking that listing agreement, put the super on the door. And what this is going to do for you is it's going to get your sign out in the yard for a good week and keep generating interest with people. So when it hits that market, they're going to be like super excited and they're going to be looking for it before it actually gets on the MLS. And then right here, once you put that coming soon sign in the yard, then start door knocking and calling the neighbors around them and let them know it's coming soon. There was an agent at Mega Camp a couple of years ago, and he said he did a 10-day blitz. What he would do is basically he would take the listing agreement, have the sign out in the yard for a week, and he would go and door knock and call the neighbors, letting them know, hey, the home's coming soon. I just listed it. He would do a private open house for the neighbors before it actually went live on the MLS. He would do a broker's open house before it went live on the MLS. And then he would list it on a Friday, which is what I've got down here. I'll go through that in a minute. But list it on a Friday, do 2 public open houses that weekend, like Saturday and Sunday. He would put in the MLS on agent remarks. We'll be reviewing all offers on Monday. And this is what would be great in y'all's market because you are in a seller's market. It generates so much hype that people are like, oh, we have to get our offer in because they're going to review offers on Monday. And he would get multiple offers on these properties. So because it generated so much interest. And so when y'all get a listing, I would highly recommend you do it that way. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I know people, it sounds good, and people aren't doing that here because they're getting multiple offers without it. But especially for us being new, any listing we get, if we can get them to let us do an open house, we probably should just to get people's names.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is, if you wait and just say, even if we get offers before it goes live on the MLS, we're still going to review them on this specific date. You could end up getting more offers and actually get your sellers more money.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, what were you going to say about that?
I feel like one, you're going to get a lot of offers, but two, you're also building faith in your buyer or in your seller because you're doing the work and you have a system in place. And I think that they're really going to like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can come in and say, we're going to do this 10-day blitz and this is my plan. Like you said, a lot of agents aren't doing that. So it could really set you apart and give you another reason for them to hire you. Hold on just a second. Let me get off of that.
Well, and if you're going out, part of the problem with door knocking is those people are just like, why are you bugging me? But if you're door knocking, talking about something going on in the neighborhood they're in,
Yeah.
some of that quit bugging me kind of guard they have kind of dissipates a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that may open the door for getting more information off of them. And
Yeah.
it's like kind of opens a door for door knocking to where people will be more receptive.
Well, and if you live in a neighborhood, everybody's always interested about a home that just went for sale in their neighborhood, right? And if you
Yeah,
say,
that's what I mean.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
even the people who hate it when people knock on their doors are gonna be more receptive to that. So
exactly. And it
you
just,
could be the same person, same day, and if you don't have that listing, they could just like kind of balk at you. But
mm-hmm. And it's just another way to get your name and face out in that neighborhood. So, and get in front of more neighbors. So I think that's a great way. And when you get your first listing, you guys work it like nothing else, to get more listings. Because the great thing with listings is, with that sign in the yard, you should be getting like 2 more buyers off of it, and or 2 buyers off of it. It's essentially you're getting 3 pieces of business. You've got the listing, potentially 2 more buyers, and depending on how quickly it sells, you may not be able to get that many. But even if you get 2 pieces of business off of it, that's 2 pieces off of one listing. So if you had 10 listings, well, you could close 20 deals.
all right, this may not be this lecture, but I was gonna go ahead and buy some yard signs.
Uh huh.
How much would you say nicer yard signs set you apart from just the cheapo generics or the plain Jane small ones like a
Yeah.
lot of people have?
I think they might cost you about probably 75 to 100.
But what I mean, do you think there's an advantage to
Oh, I see
that
what you're
of
saying. I think so
having a
because
slightly bigger signs, a
yeah,
better looking signs, and
I,
just to
I would
hey,
get
look
your
at
own
me
custom
more.
signs. I don't know about y'all signs there yet. Ours here has the office number in big bold letters, and so all you could do is put your name with like on a rider with your phone number. So I would always get your own custom signs because the great thing with Keller Williams is they allow us to brand ourselves. So really, you can create your own company within Keller Williams. So I would absolutely do that.
Well, and that's what I mean. It'd be all mine, but like some of them, like I was looking at some are the 24 by 30s, and then other ones are smaller, and they're just really plain. And it's like, I just feel like I would be better off with a better sign. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So yes, I would, if you can only buy one or two right now, just go ahead and do that, and
Mm.
at least that way you have a couple. Yet they'll be the really nice ones branded to you.
Yeah.
Christy, is there going to send us this flow chart?
Yeah, I will. I want Lena to take a look at it real quick and just make sure that there's nothing I'm missing before I send it to y'all. Um,
Okay.
I've been working on this for past days, so and she's in Austin right now. But yes, I certainly will. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything, or if there's something that I need to take out, I will.
Okay.
With the listing appointment, and I know we only have about 5 minutes, so we'll run through the rest. There's different things that you can choose to do, right? Like staging, you don't have to do staging yet. If you want to make it part of your listing packet, that's great. Something I considered doing whenever I was an agent was including like a professional cleaning service to come out and clean their house prior to actually taking the photos and going on the MLS. Of course, they would have to straighten up and clean around. Yeah, they could do a deep cleaning. So then when I get my professional photography done, the home sparkles. And then that's also something that I knew a lot of agents weren't offering. Then once you got the photography, then put it on the MLS on Friday. They've taught us like in Mega Camp and different. I've heard a lot of agents saying list it on a Friday, like Friday morning, because agents are looking to see, okay, what homes am I going to go out and look at on the weekend? And so Friday morning is always a great time to list. And then you set up your showing instructions. Do y'all use centralized showing up there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you'll set up the showing instructions on showings.com. And then you need to have a system in place for weekly updates with your sellers. So I suggest doing it on Mondays. That way, every Monday they know, hey, she's going to give me a call and say, these are the showings that we had. This was the feedback that we had. Also, looking at like running a quick comp on their area and being able to say, this home sold this weekend or went under contract, to be able to give them some updates like this is what's happening in your area, this is how it can affect you, even if there's no updates to give, like there was no showings, nothing happened in the market. Still call them and say, you know what, I just want to touch base with you, nothing happened this weekend yet. It's my Monday update calls, and the sellers will definitely respect you for that. And then
Chris,
oh, go ahead.
something to, if I can.
Yeah.
That is very important because, like, we listed our home in Ohio with the realtor and, well, not with a realtor, with a real estate agent. And I was not pleased for several reasons, but that was one of the reasons. It was like she expected no news to be good news, or or something like that. And I'm like, I need to hear from you. I need to know what's going on. And I pulled the listing from her, and I'm listing with another agent because I felt like the communication needed to be there, and she didn't seem to think that was a big deal.
Well, and that is the number one complaint on realtors with NAR is that communication. So we got to fix that, and not have that issue.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, you're in control of selling their house.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's nothing to report, you got to let them know there's nothing to report. And so the goal is not to have their home on the market that long, to get it sold for them. So ideally, you're not going to have to do a lot of market updates because it will go under contract quickly. So let's go to the home gets offers. And if we run a little over, do y'all have time to stay on maybe 5 more minutes?
I do.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm good for as long as we need to go.
Okay. Well, we won't go much longer. I just want to be able to get through this part. So the blue is after once you get offers, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to, I would suggest call the buyer's lenders and ensure that they're highly qualified to actually purchase this home. And because you should get a pre-approval or a proof of funds with the offer, yet it never hurts to follow up with that lender. And then review the offers with the sellers and talk about the pros and cons of each, because if you're in a multiple offer situation, what I would do is put them on a spreadsheet and say, this is what seller A or buyer A is offering. This is what buyer B is offering. So that way you can line it all out and help them to really choose the best offer. And then, you know, you're going to negotiate with that buyer's agent and agree on terms. So let's say you are in a multiple offer situation. You can let both of those agents know, hey, we're in a multiple offer situation. Do you want to make any changes to your offer before I review them with the sellers at, today at 5 p.m.? That way they can change anything they need to change real quick, get it back over to you. And now you can go with the sellers, and if they say, well, let's renegotiate on this one contract and see if they'll come up on price or whatever, whatever those terms are. And then once in negotiations, you can just do it back and forth through email with the buyer's agent. You just make sure it's through email, not through text message. So once the negotiations have taken place, y'all have agreed on terms, then the buyer's agent should change that contract and get it fixed to the terms you agreed on. You technically could do it, yet we usually see the buyer's agent do that. And then they'll get the buyers to re-sign and then send it back over to you. So then you get the sellers to sign, and whichever agent had their client sign last, you needed to fill in the execution date. Any questions about that part?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the next day after it's executed, that's when the option period starts. So there's kind of three things that happens. The option period starts, the buyer's agent starts doing all their work. The contract has to get to the lender and the title company. Usually the buyer's agent takes care of that, just to make sure that they did. And so the buyer's lender will keep working on the loan, and the title company will start the title search and get the title policy in place. And so while these two are doing this over here, during the option period, the buyers are going to be getting inspections done and possibly ask for repairs or money back towards the repairs. So just to let the sellers know this is what's going to be happening. Like I said, there's really not a lot on the listing side that you have to do. It's more so on the buyers. Yet you need to be communicating with your sellers of the whole process and say, okay, this is what they're doing during this time frame. And then after the option period is over, then the buyer's agent should be asking the lender to order the appraisal and the title company to order the survey if the buyers are purchasing their own. What you're going to want to do is verify the agent ordered them. So make sure, call that buyer's agent and say, hey, your option period is up. Did you order the survey? Did you order the appraisal? Just to ensure those things have gotten done. And then if you know when that survey should be back, within that time frame, just say, hey, did you get your survey back? And sometimes you'll find that you almost, I don't want to say have to work both sides, but not every realtor has the education that you guys do. So sometimes you might have to help them a little bit more than you probably should. So just be aware of that. And then once the appraisal has been ordered, in our market, and I don't know if it's the same up there, appraisals tend to take about 10 days to come back after they're ordered. Do y'all know if that's about the same?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll have to ask Lana and see if Larry knows. But so roughly around 10 days, verify that the home met appraisal. I'm sure that buyer's agent's going to let you know if it did not. Just make sure that it did. And then the next big date, and this is kind of coinciding with the home appraisal, but make sure you're watching out for that third party financing date, because the buyer has to be approved for financing. Otherwise, they can't back out of the contract and lose their earnest money. So it's the buyer's agent should really, really be watching this date. Yet you as the listing agent just know what that date is and know if it's coming up, because that's the time that they have to be able to get approval. And then after, let's say they got all this done, they've got the survey, the appraisal, they've got full approval. Once the lender says that they're able to close, they'll be doing that buyer's final walkthrough 24 hours prior to closing, or they should be. So over here, the buyer says once the buyer has full approval, the property is appraised, the lender will send the buyers a closing disclosure. This must be signed and returned to the lender 3 days prior to closing. So then the lender will give clear to close. You will need to schedule closing with the title company for your clients. And then finally you get to closing day. So for the sellers, they're going to bring IDs, keys, garage door openers, and remotes that might go to like the satellite or anything that got left at the house for the buyers. They'll need to bring those to closing. Any questions on the listing timeline or flow chart?
That's very thorough. I like that.
Oh, good. Does it kind of put things a little bit more in perspective?
It does for me. Having not, I've gone through this on the actual buyers and sellers side, but having not gone through this on the realtor side, it's nice to be walked through the process.
Okay, good. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, I've been around enough now. I sat through Ignite a couple times, but this kind of adds to it.
Good. I'm glad y'all found it helpful. And like I said, I will get this over to you once Lena says it's good. And I'm working on one for the buyer. Once I get that, I'll send that over to you as well. And this app I'm using, Lena told me about it. It's actually pretty cool. If y'all like to be able to do stuff like this, that it might help you later. It's called Mind Mapping or Simple Mind Map, free. You can download it on your computer. And but it was really helpful. It's really easy to set up a flow chart, and so you could do it for like your buyers and sellers or for your presentations.
There's also a site called MindMeister
Uh-huh.
that you can use. It's pretty awesome too. I use that site.
Is it similar to this where it allows you to do the kind of flow chart?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad she taught me about it because it really helped. It kind of, hopefully this really puts things in perspective for you guys and will help you whenever you get that listing to be able to walk through the process.
It's definitely helped me already. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, is there any questions or anything that I can go over with y'all before we hop off the call?
I just have a question about the Monday's call. I missed that because being in transit from Ohio to here.
Yeah. We don't.
Do I just link from last week or?
No. We're going to have them uploaded. I know like Mia said, we're having a little issues with the website today. We are going to get those uploaded. That way you can go back and listen to them. I don't know when yet, though. We're working on it.
Okay.
Do you have an idea when we're going to make up last week's Thursday call?
Yeah, I need to talk to Lena about that and see when she wants to make that up. Because I meant to email you, Chuck, but no one was on the call, was able to be on the call, so we will be.
Yeah, she said that, and I got a little frustrated because that was my next question. How many other people are supposed to be on here?
We should have a total of 6 now, I believe.
All right, and that's funny because I saw people I thought should have been on here right before the call. So
yeah, I'll touch base with everyone and just kind of remind and see if there's any kind of conflicts. But yeah,
I don't know if you're really allowed to share who's supposed to be on here or not. So because one thing I'd remind people, hey, we got that call coming up or something, but
yeah, and
I
I've
would
been
think
putting it on the
people would
Facebook
remember.
page too. So I just, we know that people get busy showings and so we'll definitely reschedule that. I'll reach out to the agents who should be on the call and just kind of see if there's any kind of conflicts or how everything's going.
All right.
So, but I appreciate y'all being on the call, and I'm glad y'all got a lot out of it today.
Thank you.
I'm just ready to actually have the listings.
Yeah, and you will just keep seeking after them, and like you were talking about, get your signs, get prepared, and yeah.
The buyer I have, her son's gonna sell his house, so that's kind of what I'm
good.
trying to work on too, is getting that. So
Okay, great. Well, that's exciting. So yeah, let's once you get that listed, let's kind of put this system in place and maybe do that 10-day blitz and see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks for staying on a little bit longer. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Bye.